All right, we got a great conversation for you guys today. It's with someone near and dear to my heart, literally. It's Dogan Uygur, my dad. Now we're going to talk to him about his book, The Original Young Turk, and it's on shoptyt.com. I had a really long interview with him you should check out too. Before, it was actually one of the most popular interviews we've done. It was amazing. Dogan, welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that's the first time I called you Dogan. Okay, your interview did so well. I don't know. I gotta. Anyways, so Dad, the book is about your story. Okay, your life. Before I get to how you wrote the book, you told me a story the other day that isn't in the book, that it gives people a snippet of it. About the melon fields and how you had to guard the melon fields for a month. Can you tell us what that was?
Well, my uncle had a field, and every year different product is implanted and then goes up, and they come and to take it. But one year they had this melon. They planted
like a cantaloupe or a honeydew,
yes,
something like that.
Yes,
okay.
yes. And my cousin Mehmet and me, we had to go to wait. We had a little tent in there, and almost 1 month we stayed there because we were afraid that people will steal our cantaloupes.
Okay, so get a load of this, guys. So you had to sit in a tent by the field for a month and take turns guarding the melons.
Yes.
Because you had no other ways to protect the melons when they actually blossom.
That's right.
Okay, now you guys don't talk, like people go camping now, okay? So did you guys have a sleeping bag? Did you have your all these materials and a fancy tent and?
I don't remember exactly what, but probably it was just maybe some kind of clothes or something, or heavy stuff that we lay on it because it was hot anyway in summer months.
So you had to go guard it in the summer.
Yeah.
Where it can get really hot.
Yes.
And so, do you even remember where you went to the bathroom? Because this is no joke. This is not like a retreat. Okay, it's just the fields. This is back in what, 1940s?
No,
50s?
it's about 50s.
Yeah. Okay. So there's just and anybody could come at any time. There's no police for miles and hours and yeah. And so, do you remember how you went to the bathroom? Did you guys dig a hole or something?
Whole field is bathroom.
Okay, do you even remember how you got a month's worth of food? What'd you do out there?
But most of them, we eat bread and some cheese, and very rudimentary thing is we cook ourselves. And
how old were you?
I think I was about 15 or something.
Imagine nowadays 15, go guard the melon field. You have some bread and a little bit of cheese. You have a month, good luck. Okay, just unbelievable. So, but your house didn't have electricity, right?
No.
So this is southeastern Turkey, near the Syrian border. Now, unfortunately, filled with bombs had come over, unfortunately, and tons of Syrian refugees because Kilis took them in.
Just as much as the Turkish people, there are Syrian people in Kilis right now.
Yeah, and so now Kilis is is close to Gaziantep, which is one of the oldest cities in the world, and across the border in Syria, there's Aleppo, which is another one of the top 10 oldest cities in the world. So this is in like the ancient part of the world, and so anyway, so that's where you grew up, and no electricity. I remember you told us last time you had to get up like 4 in the morning sometimes to go to the fields.
Well, I have to wake up something like around 4:30, and go around and to knock the doors of the workers, find out I know which one are, and then wake them up, and they come together and we walk to field.
How old were you when you were doing that?
I think I started about 10 or 12.
And your dad had died, right, when you were 6 months old?
8 months old.
8 months old? So you never knew your dad?
No, I never seen him.
And so you guys got debt on top because he was sick for a while, is that right?
Yeah, my grandma took him to Istanbul, which those days coming from Kilis all the way to Istanbul, very treacherous roads and very difficult, yet very expensive as well. And then after, in 1 month, they tried to get some kind of therapy because he had a cancer. And they took him back to Kilis, and after a couple of months, he died.
Okay.
He was only 37 years old.
Only 37, wow. And you were born in 1937.
Well, it's about 8 months after I was born and he died.
Yeah, and so you guys have almost no money. You have these tiny pieces of land that are outside of town. They're very far from each other. I know because I read your book. And so, and you got to go to them. But so how do you wake up at 4 in the morning if there's no alarm clock?
I guess my mother was able to wake up early because she has to do the morning ritual praying very early, and she got used to after a certain time, and she wakes me up, and then I go around and get everybody, and we walk to the field, and after we finish about 1:30, 2 o'clock, we walk back to town.
Yeah, and so back then, Turkey's almost completely Muslim. And your mom was more religious, so she would do the 5 prayers, so she'd have to get up in the morning for that. So another part of the story that was amazing to me was that you guys had to cook all the food and on the spot because there's no refrigerator.
That's right.
So you can't ever store any food.
No.
So you have to literally prepare all of the food that you eat at all times.
Yes, yes. Well, next maybe 2 days, some of the food. And we had some cabinets with screen in the front, and we put on the shed part of the town. I mean, home, and then it gets a little bit ventilated by itself when the weather at night gets a little cooler. And that's our refrigerator.
It gets a little cooler at night. That's the fridge.
Yes.
Okay. So when you have no money at all, and your family's got to survive, the question of whether you go to the fields at 4:30 in the morning as a 12-year-old is not a question at all.
No.
No, you have to go.
That's right.
Do you remember at what age you started to work, in a sense? Like to go to the fields and stuff
12, 13, it's really time.
That's when you started going,
yes,
yeah.
Yes.
And your brother was going before that and stuff, right? Okay, that makes sense. So as you guys will find out, and this is the easiest read. I mean, my dad writes so matter-of-factly, which we'll get to in a second. You'll find out in the original Young Turk. You then wind up living the American dream. You wind up meeting JFK. You wind up doing all these things, right? So when you were a 13-year-old boy, and I remember the story, I think it's in the book, I think you might have told me in the last interview, but the one where you thought you might die of thirst walking back. You know, you're so thirsty, and there's the wells with the bugs in it, and you can't drink the water and stuff.
My brother and myself, we walked to our vineyard, and that's about 3 or 4 miles away from our home. And we prepared all the containers with the grapes, and my brother said, "You better go and tell the carrier to come to pick up these things and bring it home." So I have to walk back, and something like about 2 o'clock, and the summer really hot, that 4 miles back to home, or close to my home. And it was usually on the road, there are some wells, water wells, and people pull the water and drink. And every well I approach, there is nothing to bring the water up, something broken.
So
or
why didn't
something.
you just get a Navy on? So, but wait, how old were you then? Do you remember?
Maybe 13.
Okay, when you were 13
14,
and you're getting the dry wells or the wells with the bugs, and you're dying for some water, and you're living these conditions. If they told you this is what the rest of your life is going to look like, and you get to live in this house, and you get to meet the American president, etc., would you have believed it? Could you have imagined it?
No, you know what? From early age, my brother put in my head that if I educate myself, and if I become an engineer or doctor or somebody who can really make good money, good life, and I can marry beautiful and very good family girl, and I can do almost anything. So in the beginning, when I started first year, I couldn't pass the second year, so I repeated the first year.
So like first grade?
Yes, first grade.
Oh, wow. Okay, you really were lazy because I know how smart you are. So that makes you must have been real lazy in first grade.
My brother then find out this, and he was very upset. And from there on, he always with me and telling me all the different things. And so,
yeah, your brother saved your life in a lot of ways.
Without him, I wouldn't be here today.
Yeah, and so. So did you imagine? So when your brother told you, "Hey, we can get off this farm and you can actually go live a good life and stuff," did you have fantasies of big houses and pretty girls and stuff?
I did, because all the Turkish movies start to come, and then one or two American cowboy film came to kill us, and I saw those, and I have somehow this feeling that I will be going to America. I don't know why. I was only 12 or 13 years old when I was starting the secondary school. First day, I walk in the school yard, and a couple of kids were talking each other in front of the school gate, and I don't remember what they were talking, but I just said, "I'm going to go to Hollywood." They laughed and they laughed.
And guess what, Bubba? Welcome to Hollywood.
That's it.
What now, friends? Okay, what now? So I mean, here you are. You have a book out in America, and by the way, so in the last interview, I've never seen that much universal love for anything we've done at TYT, because even though my dad is very progressive now, conservatives love him too, because you have that American dream story that they love, right? So you get the whole thing on the original Young Turk. It's a shoptyt.com. You're gonna love it. Like everybody that's read it, they're like, "Oh my God, that was so amazing." Every story in there was amazing, okay? So shoptyt.com. Okay, so you mentioned vineyard. The funny thing is, like, that sounds fancy these days. So it's a small piece of land, right?
Yeah.
And you got some grapevines and stuff.
Only 300 grape wines. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know. So you then take the grapes. I remember the story where you then, what'd you do? You stomp on them with your, you wash your feet? You literally in turn?
Yeah, we clean very thoroughly our feet and legs. And then we clean and wash the grapes as well. We have a kind of, I don't know how to say, from stone, they cut off some brick container, this high on the sides, and this big from here to there, and this white, and we put the grape into that. And I got in and I start to step on it, start to crushing.
So in the old days, that's how they made wine.
Yes.
Yeah. And so you guys were Muslim. You didn't mind making wine? That was not an issue?
No, Kilis those days was very open to this kind of things, and nobody said anything. There was a wine factory in the Kilis that time too. But yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's great.
You know, the effect of Atatürk was still very strong in my childhood and my young years.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Atatürk's the founder of the modern Republic of Turkey, and he was very secular, and he built the Turkish government to be the most secular government there was at the time, right? And so it was a very strict separation of church and state.
Before America, before France and many other countries, he gave the woman to vote and get elected to the
right. I think Turkey had one of the first female Supreme Court justices in history.
Yeah.
Out of any country, and it's because the Ottoman Empire used to be the head of the Islamic Caliphate back in the day, and he abolished the Caliphate and set up a very secular state. The Ottoman Empire had become greatly corrupted and had done terrible things, and they wanted a clean break from that, and so that he went in this direction and really modernized Turkey, and that was taught to all the kids, so they all grew up loving the idea of secularism, which kind of gets you to where I am.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that makes sense. Okay, before we run out of time, I want to get to the torture story of the Syrian soldiers torturing you. But tell me about the book, the writing of the book. What was that process like?
Well, after our interview, a lot of people made the comment, but somehow either TYT or the YouTube stopped the comment, an 850 comment after they said there are no more comments.
Oh yeah, we were just trying to censor everyone. No, I'm kidding. I don't know why we didn't do it.
I don't know
it must
why
have been
they did
YouTube.
it,
I don't know why.
But all this, out of 850 comments, almost 98 or 99% raving appraisal, and it says beautiful, wonderful. I wish.
No, it was probably the most positively reviewed video we ever did.
And yet, the same thing is happening right now. Almost every week, getting another 5, 6, 7, 10 months, maybe people are watching, and the number of watching people today is 270,000, over 270,000.
Did that inspire you to write the book?
Well, yeah, all the comments in there, everybody was so almost begging, you have to write the book, you have to, make a movie out of this. I said there must be something to it, and so I decided to write the book.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't have enough juice to get a movie made out of it yet. Okay, one day though, one day. And that way you'll really be in Hollywood. Okay, so Scorsese, Spielberg, I'm not saying anything, but in case you're watching, okay? Adam McKay, I haven't said a word. Okay, no, seriously, now let's go back. So, and the writing of the book, was it hard or no?
Yes, it was very hard, and I never realized it would be this hard and this expensive. Because if you are not big name, printing companies, publishing companies, they don't want to pay money to you and take care of everything themselves. No, so I paid everything out of my pocket. I'm a retired person. It was very, very high cost, but I started and I couldn't turn back, and I finished it.
Yeah, so you had a lot of successful business ventures eventually, you became you Monmouth County Businessman of the Year, like a really wonderful mid-sized business owner, right? But this was not one of your more profitable ventures.
Because I'm not really prepared to write the book, because I learned English something like 52 days or something like that from the time I stopped the United States.
Was it back in 60s?
Yeah, in the 1961.
Yeah.
And to the 21st of March, November. And then I went to school, graduate school in Maryland University on 15th of January.
Yeah.
On my 50-some days.
So you went and studied and then passed graduate school for engineering in America when you learned English in those 52 days between November 21st and when you started that school.
Yeah.
Tell the story real quick of when you first came here. What note did you have in your book? Because you didn't speak any English at that point.
My brother wrote a piece of paper, "I'm going to New York, please help me." I have that paper in my hand, and I came from Istanbul, from Istanbul to Amsterdam, and I stayed there 17 hours for second propeller flight. I came to United States. And so in every couple hours, I'm going to people saying, "I'm going to New York." Okay, we know, you just sit, wait. 17 hours. And finally, and $1 in my pocket.
$1.
$1.
Look, man, the millennials have it tough these days. They really do, with student loan debt and the housing prices are out of control, et cetera. But you had a different level of tough. That's not an easy life. And so before we're out of time, let's go to the Syrian torture story.
But I would like to say something. Education is such an important thing. No matter which country United States or Europe or Turkey or Saudi Arabia, we should put all our money and effort into educating our people. And should it be free of charge? Education would be free of charge.
Yeah, and I want the audience to understand, and you'll see it in the book. So how did my dad get out of poverty to become a mechanical engineer? Turkey had free college education. They say we can't afford that in America today. Turkey afforded it back in the early 1960s, okay? And then it created a whole class of kids like my dad who were poor to middle class that wound up getting a free college education and created miracles. The Turkey was in terrible shape.
Yes.
And they lifted that class of folks, lifted the economy up, and now it's a top 20 economy in the world. And it was because of the free college education.
That's right.
Some of your classmates were geniuses, set up incredible companies that lasted to this day, and they were all poor or middle class.
Yeah.
And none of them could have gotten that education if it wasn't free. So it's shameful that America can't do that. That's one of the reasons you're progressive and I'm progressive, et cetera. So I don't want to give away, like, the book's amazing because he leads a rebellion and he raises a flag and then he runs away from the military barracks where they're being kept prisoners, and I mean, but when you were, so I don't want to tell too much about how they tortured you when the Syrian soldiers captured you guys. First of all, why did they capture you?
They want the money.
That's it. They want the money, Lebowski. What were you guys doing there? Why were you in Syria? Because I know you're close to the border, but why were you in Syria?
Just the other side of the border. I don't know how. Our family from my father's side had 40 olive trees. 20 of them my uncle owns and 20 of them we own.
Yeah.
And so we are allowed to get to that other side of the border with a piece of paper, and we show them, they allow us to get there.
Right.
And we have been doing that something like 10, 15 years. But this time we went there, my uncle working, trying to finish his work, and my mother and myself and maybe other helper from the close by village, and we are working all to get all the olives together. And this 2-3 Syrian soldiers show up and they start asking money. Because we are so close, we don't have money with us. If we did have money, we would give it to them. We don't have any money with us. My uncle didn't have any money. My mother didn't have any money. We tried to explain to them. They said, too bad, we need the money.
So when they did what they did, how old were you?
I think 13 or 14, maybe.
Well, you have lived a life, man. You have
maybe
lived
even
a life.
early, 12, maybe. I don't remember, just about that time.
We're out of time, but how did you shake it off, right? Like, so you can read about it in the book, shoptyt.com to get the book, okay? But you're in tremendous pain at that point when you finally get, basically rescued and et cetera.
Because my uncle went to the close by village, and they know him because every year he is coming. And he said, next time when I come, I pay you, but could you please give me a couple kilograms of sugar and this and that.
To pay off the soldiers.
To pay off those guys.
Yeah.
And he brought that, and then they let me go.
But like in America, if you'd gotten tortured like that at the age of 12, you'd have to have therapy the rest of your life, obviously. So like, how'd you get past it?
I didn't give too much attention to it, even though it was very painful.
Yeah, I imagine it was. Amazing, it's an amazing story. So that's why when I tell you the original Young Turk, it's a hell of a book. It's got amazing stories. We're not kidding, okay? Shoptyt.com. It's almost like from a different lifetime, right? And it's like going into a movie in a sense, right? And you take a time machine and then and it covers everything. Because since you met JFK and had all these other amazing moments, it feels like the encapsulation of that period of time in world history. And so it's a hell of a story. So, and as, look, I tell you this in private all the time. Thank you. You carried us on your back, the entire family. No social safety net, no nothing. dollar in his pocket, okay, and carried us all the way and still carrying us.
But the one most important factor in my life is my brother. And if he didn't convince me to go to get an engineering degree, if he didn't support me first 3-4 months until I got into Stevens as an engineer, research engineer, he paid my tuition and he paid other things. And until I start to make money, I would never be able to do it. So my brother is my angel. He really, really saved my life.
And guys, that's the other thing you get out of the book, is that there is no self-made man. I mean, if ever there was a self-made man, it's my dad. But then you see, oh no, without his brother, without his mother, without his uncle who puts him up in an apartment, he wouldn't have been able to pay the rent in Istanbul to go to college, even though it was free, right?
Yeah.
And people chip in and they bread here and delivered food from the bus driver and stuff, etc. And it literally took a village, in your case,
yes,
to make sure you made it, and then you lifted so many other people up from that. So, all right, shoptyt.com. Check out the original Young Turk. Dad, thanks so much for coming on.
You're welcome.
All right. Thanks for watching the Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.